Hello everyone, this is Nyessa, and welcome to an interview with Edda Wintertongue to celebrate 500 subscribers to the Nyessa Gaming channel. This will be part one of several videos. Many of you submitted your questions for Edda, and I've compiled them all, and I can see quite clearly that there are too many for her to answer in just one video. So if she doesn't answer your questions today, don't worry. That just means that she's going to answer them in another video. So consider this interview a moment outside of time. Edda will answer your questions now, but when she returns to her life in Skyrim, she's not going to remember any of this. For context, in case you're watching this video at some point further in the future, you can consider this interview to be taking place after episode 104 of A Bard Song. So without further ado, I present to you Edda Wintertongue, Bard from Bruma and reluctant Dragonborn. Good evening. My name is Edda Wintertongue, though I suppose if you're here, that means you know that already. I have to admit, this is all a little strange. Knowing that so many people are watching me and have been watching me ever since I came to Skyrim, it's disconcerting to say the least. But I've been told you have questions for me, so I will do my best to answer them. The first set of questions I'll be answering tonight come from Moonlite, who asks, Edda, what is your dream weapon? What material and enchantments would you want? Well, I fight with sword and shield, and I don't anticipate changing up my style anytime soon, so my ideal weapon would probably be a relatively light, one-handed sword with as much reach as I can possibly get. In terms of material, I haven't really thought about that very much, but it would be real nice if I could get my hands on some glass. As for enchantments, that's a little bit harder to answer. I'm not real big on enchantments in general, but if I were going to use any, I don't know, maybe frost damage? Actually, you know what would be better than that? Would be sun damage. Especially considering how many Draugr I go up against, that would be really useful. But honestly, the sword that I have now, Dawnbreaker, it's pretty much all I could ask for. The only downside is that it's the artifact of a Daedric prince. But as far as Daedric princes are concerned, Meridia seems fairly reasonable. So as long as she doesn't give me any trouble, I think I'll be sticking to Dawnbreaker. The second question from Moonlight is, as former Acolyte of Archay, how do you feel about learning healing magic? I say healing magic is a fine thing, but as far as I can tell, I have no aptitude for any kind of magic whatsoever. I remember once when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old, my friend Claudia convinced Tevrith and I to try and find out if we had any magic. And she did this by taking us to this old stump that was next to her house, and attempting to set fire to it with our minds. Now, Tevrith managed to get a little bit of smoke, but Claudia and I just sat there and stared at a tree stump for a quarter of an hour. So it seems that magic is not for me. However, if I did have any talent for it, I certainly wouldn't be averse to turning that towards healing. It would be a good use of that sort of power. The next set of questions come from Jakoporeeno, who asks, when or if you leave Skyrim, what will you do with Garm? After all, can you really say he's your dog even after the adventure he's had with you? Will you give him back to the temple, keep him, or... It's true that I can't really say Garm belongs to me, but I suppose he is more my dog than he is anyone else's. He doesn't belong to the temple either. According to Brother Anders, he just showed up there one day, and he's free to come and go as he pleases. So I suppose if I ever do leave Skyrim, then it's up to Garm what he wants to do. He can continue to follow me if he likes, or he can go a separate way, as he has done at least temporarily before. But I hope that I would be able to take him with me, and that he would continue to travel with me. At this point, I've gotten rather attached to him. The next question is, what is the best memory with your mother, and what is the worst? This is a tough one, because it's hard to pinpoint one single best memory. A lot of my good memories of Mother blend into each other. Many evenings spent in front of the fire, or our secret trips to the Shrine of Talos, which I always found very exciting when I was younger. But I suppose if I had to choose one, I might think back to the first time that Mother took me on a trip to Bruma City. I was fascinated by the city and all the people there. It was so much bigger and more crowded than I was used to at home. And at the end of it, before we went home, Mother took me to see this outdoor play. I can't even remember now what the story was, but I do remember watching it together. As for the worst memory, that one's a whole lot easier to identify. I would say that it was when I was 12 years old, and this group of bandits raided the village. Mother was organizing the defenses, and I fought right alongside her. But really, the worst happened a little while after that. Now, Mother always gets restless in the winters when there's not that much for her to do, so she'll often go out and take bounty hunting jobs and the like, things where she can go hunting bandits. After the raid on the village, we had killed some of those bandits and driven off the rest, but those that survived had holed up for the winter, and Mother decided that somebody needed to take care of them. That somebody, of course, was herself. So she set out in spite of my protests, and she told me that she would be gone for about 4 or 5 days. Normally, when she went out on her bounty hunting jobs, she would leave me with Brother Roland, or maybe with Claudia's family, but this time she decided that I was old enough to spend a few days on my own. So, of course, on the 3rd day of her absence, a blizzard hit, and I got snowed in. Now, I was okay. I had enough food and I had enough firewood to last me for a lot more than a few days. But I was by myself, I was bored out of my mind, and after a week of this, Mother still wasn't back. So I waited, because there was nothing else that I could do. Finally, 9 days after she said she would be back, Mother stumbled in through the door, trailing blood and not making a whole lot of sense. She was pretty badly wounded, so I bandaged her up as best I could, and then I trekked out into the snow to try and find Brother Roland. I nearly froze to death, but I did get Brother Roland and the local herbalist and brought them both back to Mother, and they patched her up, but it was a pretty close call. Then, when Mother was recovered, she got angry with me for risking myself to go out into the snow and get help for her. So that was my worst memory with Mother. The next question is a little bit more lighthearted, and it is, what sound or noise do you hate? This one is real easy. Cats yowling right beneath my window in the middle of the night. I don't care if they're fighting or getting it on or what. I do not want to hear that. And finally, could you tell us more about your reaction to getting sent to Skyrim? Well, that was an argument and a half. So Mother waited until one of my periodic visits back home to the village, which I make a few times a year, before she made her request, which was really more of a command. And at first I flat out refused. I actually ended up cutting the visit short and going back to the city early because I couldn't stand to spend my entire time around Mother with her arguing with me, trying to convince me to go on this ridiculous journey. So I tried to go back to my normal routine. Only it was less than a week later that I found myself talking to Gerlub, my employer, and explaining why I had to leave for a while. I tried to look at it as an opportunity to gain some new experience as a bard, but I don't think I ever quite convinced myself of that. The next set of questions comes from MageTankRum, who asks, will Edda ever go home to find out what's happening with her mom/others? Rescue? Too dangerous? Send a messenger to find out more info? Well, I really haven't thought that far ahead. Actually, that's not true. I have thought that far ahead. It's just, there's nothing much that I can do right now besides wait. The problem is that going back to find Mother and Brother Roland and anybody else is way too dangerous. It would basically be walking into Thalmor hands. And sending a messenger isn't much better, because then I'd be either putting the messenger in danger or still putting myself in danger, because I don't know if a messenger could be trusted. But the Thalmor aren't likely to stick around in the little tiny village forever. So, once some time has passed, the first order of business will be to get in contact with somebody and try and find out if Mother and Brother Roland actually escaped, or if they were captured or worse. But if they did make it out, then I definitely want to do something to find them. And that probably means going to Hammerfell and searching there, because I'm pretty sure that's where Brother Roland would have gone. For now, though, it's too soon to start making solid plans, and I might hear from somebody with news in the meantime, so for the time being, I just have to wait and pray. The next question, if you can call it that, is, with Rumarin back in the group, will Edda actually share her feelings for Rumarin with him? It seemed a bit like she tucked tail and ran away without ever giving him a good reason. Now he's off helping her fight Draugr. Seems like she at least owes him an explanation, apology, or something. It's a bit unfair to involve him in her own battles, but not give him a good reason to stick around. Okay, so first things first. This sounds an awful lot like commentary rather than a question, but I'll go with it. Even though I personally think it's a little unfair. I mean, I told Rumarin from the start that I wasn't planning on staying in Skyrim, so he didn't really have any expectation for me to stick around and keep traveling with him forever. And on top of that, I am giving him a reason to fight at my side, and that reason is treasure. Whatever it is that I get out of these barrows that we're going into, he's going to get a share of them, and he knows that. Or if he doesn't know that, then I will make sure to let him know. I also have no intention of dragging him, or Autumn Law, or anyone else for that matter, with me into the Civil War. It's not his battle, and I don't expect him to fight in it. But I will be giving him some explanation of what's been going on, and why my circumstances have changed. As for the original question here, well, it sure seems like other people have a lot clearer idea of my feelings than I myself do. So I'm not sure what exactly you want me to share with him. I mean, I haven't exactly known him that long. I've only traveled with him for a few days total. And maybe Maybe there is something there, but I don't really know what it is. And anyway, it's not exactly a great time for me to be thinking about that sort of thing, what with everything else I have to think about right now. So moving on to the next question. Now that Edda is finally beginning to accept herself as Dragonborn, how does she intend to use her abilities? Directly towards the war effort as a weapon? To protect others who worship Talos? As a tool to gain power and lead people? Other ways? This is something that I've been struggling with for a while now, especially after getting the news about Mother. The voice can be used as a weapon, but I have the feeling that it will be more effective as a symbol, and that terrifies me. It would require coming out publicly as Dragonborn, because there's a power in stories, and the Dragonborn legend is quite powerful indeed in the history and culture of Skyrim. Where the Dragonborn stands, others will follow. So I suspect that my effectiveness may lie primarily in rallying others to the cause, and in doing so, setting myself up as a target for the Thalmor. So I imagine in all of this, I'll have to use the voice as a weapon as well. And the final question from MageTankRum is, how does Edda intend to balance her desire to be a bard with her Dragonborn abilities? Or will she leave one or the other behind to focus only on one aspect of herself? Why? This whole Dragonborn business has to be the priority for now, but I'm certainly not going to give up on being a bard. Being a bard is part of who I am, and that's not going to change, even if who I am includes other things like being Dragonborn. I need my music to keep me grounded. And anyway, I think that there will be some ways that I can put my skills to use in conjunction with being Dragonborn, rather than in opposition to it. After all, music and stories are a powerful way of spreading ideas. And I think that'll be about it for tonight. There are more questions, and I'll be answering them shortly. But for now, good night, and Talos guide you.